going to be, you look into that industry. Oh man, that is a
cash crop, right?
Oh man. Yeah. We're probably going to be listing that. I would hope by the end of January. That's probably going to be a close to $10 million property that we'll list.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. Ian's laughing because he didn't realize that we added new theme music to our podcast intro, which we had to be compliant on YouTube. So that's it, Ian. Nothing else. I didn't even pick out the music.
All right. Well, I was just going. I was like, it's catchy. Nice work, buddy.
The guy added it to it, and I uploaded it, and that was it. I didn't think any further into it. It didn't really matter. Just want to make sure we're compliant on all these places that we syndicate our podcast to. If this is your first time tuning into the Real Estate Reserve podcast, welcome. We promise you're going to have a lot of fun. You're also going to learn a few things related to real estate investing as well. And if you are a frequent follower, listener, viewer, watcher, we certainly appreciate all your support. It means a ton to us. If you get any value from this show today, and I'm sure you will, feel free to smash that like button, that subscribe button. And if you have any questions related to this show, and our guest Dustin, who we're gonna bring in a second, make sure to comment your questions below, and we'll make sure to answer them.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, guys. We're coming up into the new year. I think this episode will be good because Dustin has a hell of a story to where he got to. It's going to be actually a personally favorite of mine because Dustin and I are very close. If you guys go deep searching in the interwebs, you might be able to find some other podcasts that we've done together that might not resonate with you unless you're a fireman, but they've always been fun. And Dustin, myself, and my business partner, Dan, have worked together collaboratively on several projects. Some have worked, some haven't. And I'm just excited because Dustin's a doer. So let's bring Dustin in.
Hello.
Dustin, what's up? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How's it going, fellas?
I like that.
You make me sound important when you do all that talking.
Yeah,
man.
well, you got that nice deep voice. You used to be a DJ. You're still a fireman. You're selling land. I mean, dude, you're doing it. But it's been real fun to watch you. And you were an amazing DJ. You've DJ'd a bunch of our friends' weddings. And you said, I got to get out of this. I got to make a change. And you've tried a bunch of different things. And you finally found your niche because you're a hunter by trade. So you just want to kind of give everybody a quick rundown of what you're doing today inside the land business. So who you're working with?
Yeah, like the little elevator speech. I was kind of giving Jason there for a minute too. Realistically, Whitetail Properties is a land brokerage. It's a national brokerage. We're in over 40 states, 340 agents. We don't really call ourselves real estate agents. We call ourselves land specialists because our primary focus is land, and we specialize in land. So we are real estate agents that specialize in land. However, we sell and help you buy houses all the time. That's part of what we do as well. It's just when it comes to land, there's obviously a lot more into it. So essentially what I do, I work in a territory in South Central Pennsylvania. I cover from Fulton, Franklin, Adams, York, Lancaster, Chester, Cumberland, and Perry County. And then that's my territory to list properties. I can help you buy anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania or Maryland. If you are looking to buy in, like you were saying, Louisiana, and you have no idea what you're looking for, but maybe these 3 or 4 counties, and your ideal would be to get with that land specialist in that area. No other person's going to know that area better than that land specialist. So that's why we work in territories where, when you want something in that area, everybody, I'll know. I had a guy call me today, and before he even told me, the guy's name, I already knew the guy's name and property, just based on how many acres it was and what road it was on. So very, very familiar with the area, which is kind of what helps hone us in on what we do.
Yeah, and I think that's important, especially when it comes to land, real estate in general, really knowing the area. Jason, you go back to the big picture so people that are watching this can see, you can see that you are, I would assume, I know this answer, but for our audience, we can assume that you're a very avid hunter. What's your passion for land? Like where did the two meet? I mean, I know the backstory, but I really want to ask, how did the two come together? Real estate, hunting, land. Like, why did you pick this niche and not just be a regular real estate agent?
Yeah. And you and Dan both have a big play in that. I was in a ton of debt as a fireman in Baltimore. And it's mostly bad spending habits, but also, like you had mentioned earlier, a lot of business ventures that some worked, some didn't. And, you fall, you got to crawl before you walk and before you run. So I started working with you guys, and I'm, realizing the investing part of it. And, most of your wealthy people in the world are all a part of real estate. So I figured, how can I take something that I'm passionate about, which is hunting? Been doing that for years, wrote for several different magazines, had a YouTube channel, the social media stuff, did all that, traveled all over the place to hunt. And I'm like, how can I make money, like actual money doing this, not just enough to get to the following week and eat out of a bag lunch, and move forward with it. And there's no other company I'd ever want to work for than Whitetail Properties, as far as real estate goes. And obviously being able to talk hunting most of the time with people or somebody that's interested in the outdoors. I closed on a track yesterday. Family just wanted to buy something along the Appalachian Trail. So I found and listed a property there. They bought it. We closed on it yesterday, and now they're just going to hike. And it's just a conversation to, have about the outdoors all the time, where whether you're hunting, you want to walk it and talk about habitat and invasive species, or how to set up good tree stands for hunting, or is this a good spot? Should I buy this? And then I can just use my expertise to kind of help them and guide them through the process. So,
well, and I think the crazy thing about land to begin with is, like, if you ask me, like, hey, what type of properties does a land specialist, land broker, real estate agent who concentrates on land sell? What comes to mind is, residential houses or residential lots to build a house, or a commercial lot to build a commercial building. I never think about some of the other types of land uses that are out there. Let's go through maybe some of the uses in general. I mean, you just mentioned those two, but I mean, the properties that you guys list, sell, locate, try to find for your clients. I mean, is it just a whole gamut of everything? As creative as you'd think?
Yeah, I would say so. I work with a vast majority of people. I mean, from people that are first-time home buyers that want to buy exactly what you said, a residential piece of land, which you would almost think is the most simple part of it, right? Like, I want to buy a piece of land and build a house on it. There's actually so much more to buying land and looking at deed restrictions. You come to find out that you're required to build did I freeze?
Yeah, I keep it going.
Okay.
Audio.
Finding that you got to build a 2,700 square foot house or something like that. So, like, everything from that to deep pockets of, guys that have $20 million to spend and they just want to buy it recreational. So yeah, but like when you look at everybody in between, you've got investors, people that are, maybe usually like in your guys' space or the people that follow you guys too, where, hey, I want to buy a house and I want to, do some kind of subsidy with it or rent it out and try to get, income that way. Well, there's always depreciation. You've got costs that go with maintaining that home and doing things, where some people are like, hey, what can I get involved with investing in land? So with land, there's a ton of opportunities. Realistically, you've got your farming, which is like your tillable acreage. So you can do leasing of that ground to a local farmer. Now, the further east you go in my territory into Lancaster and Chester County, you can rent 400 to 500 an acre. If you've got really, really good soils, they're bumper crops every year, $550 an acre. You got 20 acres you want to rent out, and you make a sort of income there. Now you go west towards the mountain ground, you can rent it out for hunting purposes. You can just use it yourself. You can rent it out for recreation, camping, timbering. Timber is a big part of it. Most of your big timber stuff's your northwest part of the territory, part of the state. But I mean, there's guys that will walk and they'll see me and I'm not involved. Like, I'm not a big I'm not a forester by any means. I'm not even a real big timber guy, but I can tell you what type of timber, what type of property, what type of trees. It's a white oak, red oak, pin oak, all these. I can identify them, and then I can look at them, and if they're really big and really tall and really straight and don't have a lot of branches, and what we call a log, or 2 logs or 3 logs, and it's we measure DBH, which is your breast height. And I'm getting way into the weeds with this stuff, but all of a sudden now it's like, holy crap, all they want is $100,000 for this property, and there's actually $70,000 worth of timber on this. It's a no-brainer. Buy it, cut it, flip it, sell it for 120. And you're making double your money.
Yeah. So these are investors that kind of know that game already, or
sometimes they call me. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Sometimes they just call me. They're like, "What can I do with $100,000?" And it's like, "What do you want?" And like for me, right? So like I still have, what do I have? Like a deferred comp or whatever, like all this stuff. And it's like, why spend in this market? Why put this money away every week or every paycheck or whatever, where I could almost be putting that towards a piece of land where I can use it. The value is going to increase. I mean, we're seeing in Pennsylvania, I think it's like 8.1% annual increase in the value. So like, you're getting an 8% return and you can use it. So for somebody like me who likes to hunt or camp, it's a no-brainer. You buy a piece of land and you put your money into that. And then if you need to cash out, you're not getting penalized. You just turn around and sell it. And so you can use what you're just putting into an account for the next 20 years as a fireman or whatever. So I got people that come to me like that all the time too. What can I do with this much money? I want to buy this small piece of land, maybe put a cabin on it, short-term rental, Airbnb. Is that an option? Is there, can I put power there and do an RV camping thing? Stuff like that. And so it's really, and but it's a whole different space than what people are used to. And especially if you bring up the term real estate investing, I would say less than 1% ever think about land.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, because land is like, it's almost like the mysterious unknown. But I mean, we have a friend of ours, he's a fireman, and he buys in West Virginia, and he buys it to timber. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like, dude, like, how'd you even become a timberer? And he's like, I don't know. I just buy the land. It's a good deal. And they come and tell me how much the timber's worth. And I basically get my investment back on day one. I'm like, God damn, that's so smart. Do you ever run into, I know we're in Pennsylvania, you ever run in, and you're more in the central lower half, but you ever run into any mineral rights? Does that ever come up? Like people talking about fracking, gas, that type of stuff?
Yeah, that's going to be your southwest to northeast. Northeast is more gas, but everything in between, like if you just drew a straight line from southwest to northeast and everything in between, and then a little bit into northwest, that's where you deal with that stuff most. But we are required with our brokerage, we have to do what's called an OGM form, oil, gas, mineral form, a disclosure, and the form as an addendum for every purchase. Even if it's a simple house in downtown York, we're doing one of those documents because it helps protect both the buyer and the seller. Realistically, some people may buy a piece of land and not know that the oil rights have been sold, 65, 70 years ago or whatever, because, Tim Thomas thought, he's going to make a ton of money when they come and start drilling here. So there's a lot to it. There's underground, piping rights, drilling, all that stuff. And if you don't own those or don't realize that you don't own those, if you don't own them and then they show up and they start digging, it's a huge eye opener. But it's usually not a big, in my territory, it's not something I deal with too much unless you get towards the western part of the property. But it's definitely something you want to consider, just on a sense of caution. Like what does it mean that I do not own this? And there's like air rights, right? In like New York City, what does that mean? And it's very similar, something you want to try to look at and understand. And I'm not really the guy to speak, the benefits of it, or does it matter if it's there or not, because I don't deal with it as much. Those are, but if you ran into something in that territory where that was an issue, that agent of that territory is going to know, oh, it's not a big deal, this, or yeah, there's gas here, and there's a lease, and So it's something to consider. But again, there's a lot more to it than just buying a piece of land. And that's where, that's where we come into play. So.
You're mute, Jay.
Sorry about that. So, let's say, I'm somebody who wants to invest in a piece of land. I mean, do a lot of your clients rely on you to do a lot of this due diligence, or are they doing the due diligence? I'm trying to compare it to kind of like a regular residential real estate agent. And, in general, there's things sometimes you rely on and there's things you sometimes don't rely on, right? It's not like I'm going to go flip a house and sell it and then all of a sudden be like, real estate agent, you suck. You told me I could sell for $400,000 and I only sold it for $325,000. Like I don't really think that's part of their description. Maybe other people will disagree, but like there's a lot of due diligence that it seems like on some of these things. Like who kind of does the heavy lifting on something?
Yeah, that's a good question. Cause it's actually, that's a level of trust, right? That's a relationship building. And, it's the same kind of question when you call me and say, hey, I've got a house on 80 acres. What's it worth? Can you sell it? And I go and I give you my listing presentation. The biggest thing that I tell a lot of people, and this probably wins some people over and it probably doesn't for others, but is I'm not in the business to list your property. So I'm not going to tell you that it's worth $1 million, knowing it's only worth 800,000. I'm in the business of selling your property. So I'm going to do as best as I can to get these comps for your property, but then also at the same time know how much money I spend in marketing. And I'm not just throwing a piece of property on the MLS and hope that it sells, like in COVID when you list it for 100,000 and it sells for 150. I'm not doing that. We also are signature partners with CoStar. I just signed up with Crexy, and that's where I'm getting all these phone calls for that. And that's $400 a month. And then you've got your, there's just so much more. And I always explain is I'm casting the biggest net to catch as many fish as possible. And, if we're right at that market value, we're probably getting 40 to 60% of the eyeballs on it. If you're 10% over, you're down to like 20% of the buyers that are, willing to even look at it. And once you're way too high, then you're trying to find a needle in the haystack. And so there's, I get into conversations with people sometimes of, I think it's worth more than that. And it could be to one person, but you got to understand the risk versus reward to listing that high. So to go back and answer your question, if somebody comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to buy this, is it worth it? I have so much software. I mean, I probably use 3 or 4 different softwares for comps, and one is off market deals and market deals. So anything that's ever been recorded, even if it wasn't on the market, I use those comps as well. And it's cash, lenders, et cetera, et cetera. I could care less what an appraiser tells me a piece of property is worth, because all they're doing is going off comps, and they don't count for timber value. They don't look at the soil, the NCCPI value of a soil, and understand that the county average is 66 and this is an 85. Like that's huge. That's what a farmer wants to know. So you build this relationship with these guys and these people, and you're going out to look at this property and you're like, hey, it's got a lot of timber. It's a lot of white oak. There's a sawmill down the road. This is what this is worth. This is that. And if they trust you and you move forward and you don't screw it up, you keep doing business with them. So, but at the same time, if it's new, you don't know me, you don't know Joe, that guy or whatever, you want to do your own due diligence too at the end of the day. And I think if you're an investor, you're smart enough to, be careful and cautious with your money. You're going to do the same thing with that. So like, okay, I understand land is worth this. Why do you say it's that? Just ask. And I break down, I do CMAs for every listing I get. And I do comparative market analysis, and I show everything. This is why this is worth this. And here's this, and we can go a little higher, we can go a little lower. And here's, kind of the risk for all of that. And you make the decision based off what I provide you, if that's, something you want to do. So.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. When people list something that's way too high, I don't even waste time clicking on it. When I see something that's like, I think's in my strike zone, I'm like, all right, let's go take a look at it. And then when I see something, I'm like, yeah, that might be like market value. Why is it listed so cheap? This doesn't make any sense. Then you start getting spidey sense, and it's like a complete mind game against you as yourself. And you're like, man, like what's going on? Okay. And then you call and you're like, oh man, Dustin's realistic. That's good. The seller's realistic. Makes for a better conversation and probably might yield some more money in the long run.
Yeah.
So what's the funnest property you've sold?
Well, we haven't closed on it yet, but my featured listing in Dillsburg, I love showing that property. There's really cool ATV trails, a lot of good deer on that property, and the views in the house is incredible. Watching people and I always get up there before buyers show up and I turn all the lights on and, just try to make it a fun experience. And that's, we partner with a bunch of different companies. So like we've got the Yeti cooler and then there's water and stuff on ice. And so we just make it a real fun experience when we're selling your property to these buyers. So they show up and they're like, that was fun. It's more of an experience when we're selling. So to be able to sell that property and show that property is a fun experience because it's such a cool property, big windows, huge view, 30-mile views. You're sitting up on top of a mountain, it's all post and beam house, just beautiful property. And yeah, I mean, I'm under contract. We're actually supposed to close in January, but health conditions, we pushed it back to March. But that's probably my favorite one to show. But my favorite type of property, probably just your general hunting property. It's my most conversation. Like
you show up with your what are they, UTV, right? Is that what they are? Yeah, you
UTV.
show up with your UTV, I can see you right now. You show up, pull it off the trailer, put the client in there, you're out driving around, bring a gun, maybe just in case you can shoot something, right? I know you. I know that hunting is what gets you going and what makes you the most excited. I think it's smart that you've picked this. This is actually me being able to say, Dustin, good job. And that never happens. So congratulations.
Yeah,
you got that.
I appreciate that.
Let me ask you this one. I know you've toyed around with the idea. Do you ever see yourself doing this just completely full time and separating yourself from your other job, or are you going to continue to do both?
I love that question because everybody says, when do you think you're going to do it full time? And I do this probably no less than 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, I woke up this morning and I wrote 2 offers for 2 pieces of property, and I've been back and forth negotiating with a listing agent that is driving me insane. It's just nonstop. It's all day long. As soon as I get off here, I'll probably do it again. I've got a buddy of ours that moved to New York, still in the fire department. I was at his house pulling blinds down, getting the photographer ready today. I'm doing this full time, 70, 80 hours a week, more or less. And obviously my phone's 24/7. But what you're getting at is, will I leave the fire department to do this? And yeah, the answer is yeah. I mean, that's the end goal. With 2 children and, my wife, and we're still working to get that comfort pocket money set aside to where, I can comfortably leave. The benefits are there. It does not get in the way of this right now. I go to work, and as long as all my fire department stuff's done and everybody's got their downtime, I just treat it like an office day, and I do all my office stuff. And then the next day I'm in my truck in my, my Whitetail Properties gear, and I'm walking land. And whether I'm showing land or going to listing appointments, that's what I choose to do on my days off. And I mean, there's days at the firehouse, everybody's in bed, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm still up till 3 o'clock in the morning, just because we were so busy during the day. I didn't have time to do my office stuff that I needed to. So I use that, downtime at night to get stuff done. So
sounds like Ian 2 years ago when I used to call them or do podcasts or FaceTime them. Same thing.
Yeah. The problem was I was up till 3 a.m. taking goddamn runs. That was the only mistake.
There's companies that I could be assigned to that it just definitely wouldn't work. I'm absolutely blessed where I'm at, and I got great guys. The guys are smarter than I am. I rely on them for so much. And I mean, yeah, it works out. And eventually it'll come to a point where it's not me wanting to leave. It's more me doing it for that specific firehouse, because I think it deserves somebody that's dedicated. And I feel that I'll get to a point where I'll be so busy where that will start taking precedence over me doing my job correctly. And, I joke about it all the time, but like at one point it'll be, it's not worth it to come in and be a shitbag, to be frank, I guess. And that'll probably be the time that I leave, but for now it works. And I get benefits.
No, I hear you. Hey, payday's the same every other Friday, no matter what you do. So,
yep.
But What you guys have listed some like legit properties over the years. Your company has. You've worked with some of the famous sports athletes and business owners. You guys sell not just to be clear here, we're not just selling $300,000 lots of land. We're selling big stuff. I think Jason's going to pull it up. Like you guys just had it wasn't your direct listing, but somebody in the state of Pennsylvania had a listing and you can go ahead and finish it.
Yeah, Kip Fulks. He's the co-founder of Under Armour. He's the owner of Big Truck Brewery. He knew Whitetail. Anybody that's in that space knows Whitetail Properties. I mean, when you think of a land brokerage, it's Whitetail Properties. And he said for a while, he's been thinking about listing it. He's tried to sell it, couldn't sell it. Had it on the market with another brokerage for a whole year, couldn't sell it. Came to Jack Brown, who is our broker for the state, and said, "Hey, I'm ready to sell this, and I'm using Whitetail Properties." And Jack said, "Okay." And they've got it. Actually, it doesn't show that it's under contract, but as of this morning, they got it under contract. And I think it's less than a week for a $16 million property.
I mean, we're talking 7,000 acres here. Like this is absolutely insane. I know you text me and Dan, you're like, "Yo, dude, you guys should buy this." I'm like, "Cool. How we make money with it?" But like, let's talk about like 7,000 acres. What, like you said, there's a $250,000 land or timber contract or something there.
There's a $250,000 annual gas lease that comes in, and and then there's timber there that's worth about $7 million. There's a ski lodge. There's all sorts of stuff. There's a video on it.
Was there like pig farming and stuff too, or something going
on? No. That's the other one. That's another one I have that'll be coming to the market.
There's a ski lodge on this too.
Yeah, there's it's like a ski hill and there's like a ski lift, and all you gotta do is just, I guess, like redo the motor or whatever. I'm not too familiar with the property. We just got told the night before he launched it that we were listing it, and of course it's exciting. It's probably the biggest track in Pennsylvania that we'll have sold. But I mean, 7,000 acres, that's huge.
What did he use it for? Do you know?
Bought it primarily for hunting. There's actually an interview of him on that, should be somewhere on that website, but he had bought it kind of like a place that, his family had always told him to put money in land. And so he did. And he bought it and just put all these food plots and stuff together on it, and did it for hunting, but just didn't have the time to use it. So there he is there. So once he found out that, hey, I've got this and I don't have time to use it, I'm gonna sell it. And so he turned to us, and you can see all that white oak there. That was some pretty big timber.
I'm sure he made $1 or $2 selling this, right? I'm sure here's the thing, 7,000 acres. It's whoever was selling it prior to, not many people can buy that. I think it's impressive that you guys are able to find someone in a week to buy this thing. I mean, it's the right time of year. Someone's looking to place some capital, but man, I'm sure you're salivating. It's probably a hunter's paradise if I had to guess. Yeah,
it looks pretty cool. And the layout's really nice. The trail systems are nice. They spent a whole day going through that, and they said, they're like, we're getting lost. It's like 10 and a half square miles, and we're getting lost trying to figure out how to get back. And, when we show up on a property, so you see that the main page there's a map, and that's something that, we do that a lot of brokerages won't do. And it's, there's trails we'll go through, and then you can click on some of the photos. If like, that's a photo, that's a screenshot. But if you go back to the main page, you'll see the map. And if you click on that, right, it'll open up. Yep. It'll open up. And then there's probably, I don't know if they did it there, but there's probably photos like on those little landmarks, and you click on that and you can get a 360-degree view. So it's like a virtual tour of the land, which is key when you're selling this kind of stuff. People want to understand what they're looking at.
I'm trying. I want a ski slope. I'm in. I don't like skiing anymore because it's too packed everywhere.
We went from wanting a jet to now you want a ski slope. I like it. So,
you get the jet. You get the jet. I'll get the ski slope.
It's such a cool property.
I just want to play hockey on the pond. I mean, that'd be fun. I'm sure there's got to be a private runway near there. I mean, dude, that is impressive, and I think that's cool that you get the opportunity to get the option to even talk about these. Like, that's just like one of those things. It's like, we talk about, hey, come invest in our deals, because not many people get shots at these. People like us. I mean, here you are looking at 7,000 acres. When the heck would you ever get a chance to go ride that? Or, you're doing 100 acres locally to you. I know
It's
a cool one
insane.
you were talking about for a minute was, you've talked to some people that own Christmas tree farms, like,
Yep.
I'm like, yo, dude, sign me up. I want to go check one of them out. We
That's
know
going to be, you look into that industry. Oh man, that is a
cash crop, right?
Oh man. Yeah. We're probably going to be listing that. I would hope by the end of January. That's probably going to be a close to $10 million property that we'll list.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't make it to market and it lands on Dan and I's desk first, but that's another story.
Yeah,
But,
and to be honest though, like here's something that if you're in this space, if you're looking to invest in land, it is a very, very good idea to get roped in with a Whitetail Properties land specialist that you want to buy in that area. And I say that because when I go to these listing appointments and, I'm coming up with this number and I say, okay, hey, your property's worth this. And I always tell them, I give them 3 numbers. Here's a middle number. This is what market value is. This is, you've got to sell it to me first off, then we've got to sell it to a buyer, and then we've got to sell it to a lender or a bank, which is usually coming with an appraiser. If we can skip that part, we're going to go to a cash buyer. Obviously, we've only got to sell it to 2 people. You got to sell it to me and we've got to sell it to the buyer. But that third one's is the tricky one, because if you're going way too high and you're just listing at a price that's ridiculous, it's not going to appraise. It's all going to fall apart, or you're going to have to negotiate, and what you thought you were getting, you're not going to get. So I try to skip all of that, like the ending part of falling apart, by giving you these 3 prices. And then the top one is a little bit higher. And I say, hey, here's your top end price. Here's a value that, we could potentially list for. Here's what it's going to do. Here's your risk versus rewards. And that way, if a buyer comes to me and says, hey, is it worth it? Or, I'm representing both sides. I'm comfortable with them spending that much money on that property versus me saying, okay, I think it's worth 500,000 and you tell me you think it's worth 750 and we list it for 750. Now I've even got to try to convince myself when I'm showing the property that it's worth 750. So I don't do that. I'm not in the game. Like I told you earlier, I'm not in the game of listing properties. I'm in the game of selling properties. And I think in order to do that, you've got to be strategic in your pricing. And the reason I'm telling you all this is because if I know of a buyer already and you're comfortable listing at the price that I'm recommending, I'm going right to the buyers and I'm saying, hey, this one's coming to market. If you want first crack at it, let's go look at it. It's going to be on the market next week. And we can look at it even before it gets on the market, and we can have it, sold to you. So there's an opportunity. And I'll tell you, maybe not so much right now, but a year ago, if I priced something right, it was sold. I mean, I was selling stuff within a week, and you're closing in 2 weeks after that. So now, there's people worried about the interest rates. So there's not as many buyers out there, but I still deal with 90% cash buyers. But for the most part, if you know that you're looking for something and I find it before it goes on the market, I'm telling you, and you're going to get first crack at it. And that's the same thing with most agents in the 40 something states that we are, throughout the 340 agents that we have. So that's a big plus.
Do you see seller financing in this space?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Commercial real estate.
Yep, quite a bit. And it's a lot of like to get the deal done, not a high interest rate. So it's not like you don't qualify for a loan. You're a qualified human, but we're doing it at a 5% rate with, maybe a balloon payment at 3 years, with a 30-year calendar. But like, yeah, I mean, we do that quite a bit, and that helps get the deal done. But you also probably have to come out of pocket 20-30% right at the beginning, because you at least want to cover the seller's closing costs, and you got to cover your own. And then we want to put a little bit of money in their pocket, so they're not just walking away with nothing. But yeah, quite a bit of it. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, because land and financing in general, a lot of banks are skittish on it. I know Jason can get some skittish on it, and I understand why. So I think seller financing, and sometimes you need it to get the entitlements, right, or what you want to do with it. So not everyone has the cash to do it. Dude, we've appreciated all the knowledge. It's fun to see you grow over the years, going from DJing weddings to We tried doing outdoor watering hole. It happens.
That was
Things,
fun.
you made a really good post about that. How like, hey, failures happen. It is what it is. Be transparent about it and keep it moving. And it's been fun to watch you grow. Before we let you go, and I think everybody knows where to find you. We like to ask all our guests. I know you're probably a podcast guy, but like, what's one podcast or book that you think you're either listening to right now or everybody should know?
The book I'm listening to right now is Man in the Mirror. The podcast, mostly hunting podcast, but there's a podcast if you're in the land space. Let me make sure I got this right. Guy by the name of Pete Reese. This is for all investors. So if you go to realvest.com, and that's REELVEST.com, the guy named Pete Reese, he is one of the top wholesalers that I deal with. Actually, that's not a good website. It's a good website, but that's not what I need to send you to. Do Pete Reese podcast. Land flipping and investing. I'll give you a link here soon. You can share it. But this guy's incredible. Turning Profit. There it is. Turningprofit.com. Follow this guy. He is the king of wholesaling, and not wholesaling where it's like Dustin Prievo or signs, and then I find a buyer before I close. This guy actually closes on properties, and then we'll list it for him. And it's a really, really good relationship. The guy's awesome to work for. If there's an issue, or if I'm like, hey man, this needs to be surveyed, we're finding some sticky stuff, he's coming out of pocket, no issues, no question. He never questions me. But he makes a killing. He actually asked me, just because there's like 3 deals that I don't know how, but we're able to make them, keep them together, and got very, very, very creative with one in particular for financing to make it work. And he's like, we're growing so fast, we're growing so much, I gotta bring you on. And I'm like, I can't do it. And he wanted me to leave Whitetail and go there, and I wouldn't. But the guy, you follow him, listen to his podcasts, get the idea of land investing in your mind. He's somebody to pay attention to. He does his own marketing. He'll look at vacant land, people that don't live there. They don't really know what the value is, and it might be worth $200,000, and he offers them $100,000, and they might back, I'll do 110, and then he buys it for 110, and he turns around and we sell it for 200. And he's just continually doing that, and he just finds crazy deals. And I think one of his podcasts, he said he will not buy it unless it's at least 50%, like about 50% of what it's worth is what he's doing. So
yeah, makes sense. Well, next time you talk to him, tell him we'd happy to have him on the Real Estate Reserve podcast and bring him on here. And we've had a couple other land guys, and they all seem to be doing the similar thing. So it's been exciting to watch, and it's just a space that Jason and I aren't familiar with. So knowing the wholesalers and that you're doing, it's been awesome. You just want to recap one more time the best place to find you besides Whitetail Property, or if that's the best place to find you?
I don't even know what
find you.
I guess Facebook, and I don't even know what it is. I can't even, not even logged in on Facebook on this computer. Just search Dustin Prievo. I think it's Dustin Prievo Land Specialist or whatever. I've got a Facebook page. But if you go to Whitetail Properties, search Pennsylvania, search South Central, you'll find me. Instagram, I don't do much anymore. I've completely gotten away from social media so much that I'm like forcing myself to post lately. But
that means you're busy actually doing work, so that's a good thing.
Right. Instead of just fake it before you make it anymore. So, but my cell phone's up there on my Whitetail Properties. That's my direct cell phone. Shoot me a text, shoot me a call, reach out to me if you want to learn more about it. If you're ready to make a purchase or invest, and we'll make sure you're going the right way. So,
amen. Well, we appreciate you jumping on.
Thank you guys.
What's that?
I said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. No, appreciate you coming on before the end of the year. Excited to watch what you do in 2024. Hopefully join us on the bearded face side of the world soon.
I got to cover up my chins.
Your chins. Everyone said, why don't you shave? I said, you know how many chins I have? I can't do
You know how fat I am?
Yeah, exactly. No. But again, appreciate you. Looking forward to watching your growth. And like I said, it's been a very special episode because it's been fun to watch you. So
cool. Thanks.
All right, guys. Enjoy the holidays. See you.
See you guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.